This is Clark Kent from the Predatory Lending Network, out with this news that the Nasdaq is nearing its all-time high of 5,000. Now, what do you think about that, Batman?
Well, there's so many dollars that have been printed and counterfeited over time that eventually that money comes back. So there's a lot of money that goes overseas through investments or drug deals, and eventually they've got to buy something, and it's going to be a capital asset. So when you look at the levels of the stocks nowadays, it doesn't necessarily reflect underlying values. It may reflect an underlying lack of confidence in the dollar overseas and them coming back, buying up real estate, which you see a lot now, and other capital assets.
Now, the Nasdaq has not been this high since the tech bubble. Now, what do you think about that?
Well, like I said, it could be some movement in tech, some developments, but I think more likely it's simply a matter of you've got dollars which don't do anything for you. I mean, literally, there's drug dealers overseas with rooms full of $100 bills. So there's a lot of dollars out there, and we've had a major deficit for a long time. And so those dollars are probably flowing back into real estate and the stock market, pushing those things up.
Now, there was a concern with that because of the euro, it prints a $500 note, that criminal organizations would go to the euro because there'd be less volume to carry a $500 piece instead of $100. Do you think people or criminal organizations go more towards the euro now instead of the US dollar?
Well, you make your money here. You do your drug deals here, you do them in $100 bills, you ship them out of the country. And then the Iranians have had basically a full-on printing press of our money for a long time, and for decades they've counterfeited American money. So there's a lot of American money overseas. So, like I said, that stuff can come back at any point in time and push real estate up or stock markets up without any other underlying issue that would do that on its own. So it's not necessarily a relationship between profit and loss statements or cash flows or quarterly reports. It's simply a matter of there's so many dollars overseas and then flowing back in.
Now, do you think possibly because of all this, we could possibly be at a new breaking point for a new bubble?
Well, there's often reasons for collapses. So in the Great Depression, the Germans defaulted on the war debts, and that triggered the stock market crash. This most recent financial collapse, the Fed ran the interest rate up from 0% up to 6% in quarter-point increments like clockwork. And so it flipped the value of real estate, lost equities, and everything fell apart. So there's often an exogenous reason for financial collapses. Boom and busts aren't necessarily cycles you have to go through, as we saw in the Clinton period. Clinton did a great job of managing the economy, and it was just up, 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 very smooth. Even with $200 billion surpluses, which you think would be a drag on the economy, he still had unemployment going down and all the economic indicators going the right direction. So if you manage the economy correctly, there isn't a boom and bust cycle. Busts are usually because the government has made a terrible mistake, or there's some remarkably large macro issue like the '79 oil embargo.
Yeah. Now, of course, what do you think are the best investments for the future?
Well, I think long-term the dollar is done. I think China has wiped us out for manufacturing. So I think long-term you're looking at commodities, gold, you're looking at real estate. These markets will fluctuate over the short time because of government policy or the actions of very large players. But over the long economic trend, I think your commodities and your real estate are good. Your other big problem is going to be water. So investing in things that develop water, deliver water, have water, I think that's also a long-term issue for the U.S.
Any favorite stock picks?
Like I said, I think the stock market with China out there is a very dangerous thing to do. Even if it's a tech firm and you develop something new, the Chinese are going to knock it off and they aren't going to enforce your patent. So, you can make money in the stock market, but it's a shark tank. It's a dangerous place.
I was hoping you'd say Wayne Tech. Okay, any last minute things you'd like to say?
No, it's been great meeting you.
Okay, so in closing, this is Clark Kent from the Predatory Lending Network, signing out. Now, this is Clark Kent from the Predatory Lending Network, out with this breaking news that the Nasdaq is nearing its all-time high of 5,000. Now, what do you think about that?
Well, historically, it's not a good sign for the rest of the stock market. Once it normally reaches a high, it can only go one place. Queen Consolidated, we've actually hedged against the possibility of losing, as well as liquidated some of our other investments overseas. So I think that we're pretty well set up to see where the market goes from here.
Now, we haven't seen these highs since the tech bubble. What do you think about that?
Exactly. It is a bubble. Once it goes this high, the only way it can go is down. Like I said, we've hedged against this possibility. So Queen Consolidated is pretty protected against the burst.
So you feel we're at a breaking point of another stock market bubble?
Oh, most definitely. Again, many times in the stock market, they just kind of manipulate the way things appear to the public. A lot of people make a lot of money, while whenever it bursts, a lot of other people lose a lot of money. So I think definitely we're looking at another burst.
Now, what do you think is the best investments for the future?
Best investments for the future, pretty much anything that Queen Consolidated is putting out, as well as Kryptonite. Kryptonite should be going fairly high soon.
Okay. So in closing, any last minute things you'd like to say?
I think that's it.
Okay. So closing, this is Clark Kent from the Predatory Lending Network, signing out. This is Clark Kent from the Predatory Lending Network, out with the news that the Nasdaq is getting close to its all-time high of 5,000. Now, what do you think about that?
I think it's crazy.
Now, there's a concern now because we haven't seen this high since the 2000 tech bubble. Do you think we're getting close to another bubble?
Yeah, I guess, yeah. Maybe. I don't really know. My mind's at a blank right now.
Now, so you think we're at a possible breaking point and the market's ready to crash?
Possibly.
Now, what do you think are great investments for the future?
Great investments? Like in general, just like anything?
Whatever.
Great investments? Stock.
So in closing, is there any last minute things you'd like to say?
Don't look for me.
In closing, this is Clark Kent from the Predatory Lending Network, signing out. This is Clark Kent from the Predatory Lending Network, out with this news that Nasdaq is getting close to its all-time high of 5,000. So what do you think about that?
Well, I'm very excited because it hasn't happened since the tech bubble. So we're approaching some very healthy growth numbers. I think it bodes well for the end of a double dip, recession and all the craziness, but I'm afraid about the potential government shutdowns. So I think that if the government has another shutdown, that would definitely affect the Nasdaq numbers, S&P numbers again.
Now, we haven't seen this since the tech bubble. Do you think we're possibly on the verge of another tech bubble burst?
I certainly hope not. I think that we had a lot of other involvements, things like subprime mortgages, playing with the market. I think we've learned a lot of lessons. And I think that we have enough sustainable growth that maybe we won't have that sort of market reset that we had.
Now that So do you think we're possibly breaking out to another bubble and we'll be crashing anytime soon?
I don't think so. Though, the market is very cyclical, so things that happened before could happen again. And we need to brace for that, and that's why being diversified is so important, to sort of protect against those natural corrections and natural cycles.
So what investments do you see for the future? Or what's a good one?
I think real estate on Cobra Island is always a solid bet because it is an island, and Cobra Commander only allows us to buy so many square feet. And that I also think that blue and red laser technology is where it's at.
Now, you say on the island, what about this whole, because Cobra Commander was working with the Weather Dominator and, we have global warming raising. You on an island, will the island eventually sink?
No. All things associated with Cobra are strong and viable and will last forever.
So in closing, is there any last minute things you'd like to say?
Just want to wish my mom a happy birthday.
I was hoping for Cobra, but...
Oh, we can do it again. You want to cut it?
So, yeah. So in closing, is there any last minute things you'd like to say?
Cobra!
So any last minute things you'd like to say?
Cobra!
So in closing, this is Clark Kent from the Predatory Lending Network, signing out. This is Clark Kent from the Predatory Lending Network, out with this news that Nasdaq is getting close to its all-time highs of 5,000. So what do you think about that, Wonder Woman?
I think that's great. It's great for the people who are working really hard. It'll be great.
Now, we haven't seen Nasdaq 5,000 since the tech bubble of the 90s. Do you think this bubble is about to burst?
I think in a couple of years it might.
But not right now?
Not right now.
Okay. Now, so a lot of people worry that we might be at the breaking point. Why do you think we're not about to bust?
Well, it usually takes a couple times before something bursts, and you know, we'll always be there to protect.
So what kind of investments do you see best for the future?
It depends on the people who want to invest and what they're investing in, but they should probably hold off for a couple years. Let it burst first.
So what do you think of stealth technology? Because you were the first one to come up with invisible jets. What do you think? Is that something we can use for mainstream society?
I think we definitely can use that.
Okay, I'm reaching here. Okay, so in closing, is there any last minute things you'd like to say?
No, I'm good.
So in closing, this is Clark Kent from the Predatory Lending Network, signing out. This is Clark Kent from the Predatory Lending Network, out with this news that the Nasdaq is getting close to its all-time high of 5,000. Now, what do you think about that, sir?
Well, it's good that the market's going up on the stock market, but gas prices are still going up now after we had such a low pricing with it, and metal market is going up, is going down in prices. So that's going to affect manufacturing and construction and such. So we might see the market balance out after a while with that stuff conflicting with it.
Now, we haven't seen these levels of Nasdaq 5,000 since the tech market bubble. Do you think we're close to another burst in the tech market?
I think so. Definitely with elections upcoming. They definitely want everything to look good with the presidential election coming up. But probably before or afterwards, we're probably going to see a crash or everything go back into a low.
Now, do you think we're at the breaking point of another tech bubble, or is this at the end?
Probably. We're definitely seeing stuff with the video game market, whereas Microsoft is really suffering and Sony is struggling to get their market back up into shape. Nintendo's managing to balance out with their handheld market and their console, but their console still isn't doing that well. Hopefully it pulls up with that, but TVs, they're just taking complete strides with it, and we just haven't had a lull of everybody able to acclimate to what's the new HD. Everything's going to 4D now, 3D, or 4K, I mean 4K and 3D. It's just, everything's advancing really fast. We're probably going to have another crash if they don't let us have time to breathe.
So what do you think are the best investments for the future nowadays?
Best investments?
Propane?
Well, fuel's going back up. Right now everything's real low. Prices are going up already, so I'd say invest in fuel. Oil again, because those always historically have always gone up.
So in closing, any last minute things you'd like to say?